on, y'all!
Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, and this is another episode of The Next Level. And together with my co-host, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, we discuss the most recent guest interview and suss out a few key topics and translate them into specific tactical strategies that you can use to help bring your business to the next level. And before I introduce my very special guest co-host, I want to mention that last week's guest was Sylvia Weinstock, the iconic cake designer. And my co-host on The Next Level to talk about it was Sean Lowe with The Business of Being Creative. So if you missed last week's release, I really urge you to listen to it. Sylvia is amazing. And Sean and I had a great talk about the interview. So at this time, I do want to introduce my co-host on The Next Level, and that is Julie Sabatino, whose company is The Stylish Bride. And Julie is the innovator behind the industry of wedding fashion styling. She works with brides from all over the world to shop with them for their gown, which is the result of a very highly specialized and involved approach and process that empowers them on their wedding day and certainly extends well beyond. And as a renowned expert in the field of styling, Julie was on my show on August 13th. So Julie, welcome.
Thank you, Andy. I love being here.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're doing this. And like I said, I really encourage everyone to go back to check out the interview with Julie on August 13th. At the end of this, I'm going to give you some more information about how you can get some really good tips from Julie. So this morning's guest was Lynn Easton, and this is part one of two conversations with Lynn. Lynn created Easton Destination Events, a luxury destination wedding design and planning company that works worldwide with offices in Charlottesville, Virginia, and Charleston, South Carolina. She is also the creative force and co-founder of Easton Porter Group, a luxury hospitality company with a portfolio of award-winning boutique hotels, vineyards, restaurants, and event venues in North America and Europe. Lynn is a very popular planner and designer amongst the industry as well, and people always want to hear her speak. And now you get to hear the backstory about Lynn and so much more. So I urge you to listen to her entire interview. It's really wonderful. And again, this is only part one because this Friday, I'm going to go see her and I'm going to have her on the show again. And I'll be releasing that next episode sometime in the first quarter of this new year. So, Julie, you know, in terms of thinking about some of the highlights of this conversation with Lynn that really stuck out, and there's so many, but one of the first ones to me was how she talked about how she realized really early in her career that in spite of having done a lot of beautiful events, that no one really knew who she was, and so she had to make this conscious decision to brand herself and set some goals. And I remember her saying that she even had to say it out loud. And if you don't articulate it, then you can't do it. And she literally said out loud, I want to be one of the best in the country. And how scary that was because if she felt that if it doesn't come true, she's going to have a sense of failure.
Yeah, I loved that part of the interview so much, actually, because hearing her say that scared her and knowing her today and how much she has achieved, I thought was really inspirational. I mean, you would be hard pressed to find somebody out there that has had more success in the industry than she has. And I like hearing about how she got there and how she motivated herself and told herself, this is what I'm going to do. And she did it. And, you know, I think without that kind of asserting exactly what her goal is and really focusing on it, you know, it's hard to reach. So it's great advice.
Did you go through a similar experience yourself with your business where you thought, look, I've got to make a change. I've got to really go for it. I have to brand myself. I mean, did that occur to you as well?
Absolutely. After I had my kids, I had really kind of pulled back a little bit from my business and thought, okay, I'll take the business that comes to me. I mean, I had my daughter in 2008, so it's a while ago, but I then all of a sudden realized right after I had my son in 2010 that I missed it. But if I was going back, I was going all in. And I just had that moment where I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be a great stay-at-home mom. I love my business. I love to work. And that's one of the things I admire in Lynn so much because she unabashedly works all the time and works hard for what she has. And I love that she talks about that.
And she also mentioned how she went to a PR person at one point to talk about this and get some advice. And that PR person said, look, Lynn, if you want to be known nationally, you also have to publish. And you can't wait for them to come to you. And, you know, that also struck me as in terms of a technique to further brand yourself. I remember I was at a conference. It might have been a special event or something like that. And I remember going to one of these seminars where they were talking about that, about getting published and how can't wait for them to come to you. You've got to go after them. And I remember that a light bulb went on in my head. This is with my music business, Kushner Entertainment. And I came back and I started researching, all the different publications that I felt that I could be a part of and what are some of the topics I could talk about if I was interviewed and how do you submit and how do you reach people? And I really went for it. And that included networking, like at these conferences, going up to these people in the media and obviously having something to say. And what happened was I ended up getting enormous amount of press for years. And it was having to, not be overly aggressive, but pretty much go for it. And so I thought that was also a good point that, that Lynn made.
Yeah, absolutely. And, she was saying, I think in the interview, we have so many more avenues today to get published than when she was talking about it. But, 10 years ago, it was kind of print and that's it. And it was a big deal when you were published, in the pages of Martha Stewart Weddings, and it still is. But today you have to not only have that, but you have to be in the online version. You have to have an Instagram presence, which she's fabulous at. But it was in some ways, I think, a lot more difficult to get in, but more of a simple recipe back then.
That's right.
It was the bar was a lot higher.
There are, like you say, I remember her saying that too. There's a lot of different paths to it. And so there's a lot of opportunity the way I look at it too. And she also mentioned that if you want to be known nationally, you got to work with national vendors. And she mentioned how, one of the first things she did was to go to Jose Villa, who's a very well-known photographer in the business, and how she knew that if she could get really good photos and all of that, he's going to get a lot of attention. And so she's going to get it. And by the way, I interviewed Jose on the show. So that was a real elucidating interview if you search for Jose Villa. But that really helped her too. And I just want to take a moment and say, wouldn't we all like to have more exposure in our markets? I mean, certainly our own handling of social media and various other tools are ways that we do gain more presence. Though, what if you could have professional outside help that you could depend on to really get you the results that you need? And I know we all are happy to get much more presence. Well, I want to tell you about our sponsor of today, OFD Consulting. They are an award-winning publicity agency that focuses on the wedding industry, and their client portfolio ranges from top-tier planners and venues to well-regarded national brands and industry thought leaders. And OFD Consulting has placed clients in a slew of popular online and offline publications, including the New York Times, Martha Stewart Weddings, Style Me Pretty, many others. And they also have a service that's dedicated entirely to B2B press for those looking to elevate their brand reputation among peers through online mentions, guest articles, podcasts, and speaking engagements. So if you are a small business and you want to get your name out there, get more exposure for your brand, get your message out there, and you want to just dip your toes in the PR waters, check out the OFD Collective, which is a 3-star membership with robust educational and coaching opportunities, along with ongoing press leads. So definitely check out ofdconsulting.com. Again, that's ofdconsulting.com. I thought this would be really interesting, especially to get your take on. Lynn also talked about being really thoughtful about what you're trying to achieve during different parts of your life. And I think that was in response to when I asked possibly about balance. How do you balance family and raising kids and building such a career? I mean, her career is so big. I wanted to get into that with her. And I remember her response being, you got to be really thoughtful about when you're going. And this is obviously her opinion. And that for her, when she was raising her kids when they were really young, she didn't feel it was a good time to really be going for it nationally. And because everything's so hectic and dealing with family, children, and career. And so she said when they were over 8, that was when she really started to go for it. And I wonder what you think about this.
Yeah, she and I have talked about this a bunch of times. And I remember the first time she told me that. It was even before she talked about it on stage, during a presentation. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't do that. I want it all and I want it right now. And she said to me, you really have to think about that because you do have small kids and you have to decide what you want. I actually never really got very good at taking that advice, to be perfectly honest with you, because I've worked a lot and very hard, and I love to work. And of course, I love being a mother most of the time. But, it makes sense to me. And I think that it's smart. I think what's actually great is that you can have this type of career for so long and really get into different stages. Like Sylvia, I know didn't start her business until she was in her 50s, and that's incredibly inspirational. Look at where she is today. But, for me, I think that, you have to kind of consider what your goals are and when you want to achieve them. But I do have the complication of, having to go to a Christmas concert like I did this morning for my son's third grade class. And, your time and your mental capacity is a little bit divided. I personally end up feeling like I'm not, doing it well, or I'm forgetting something. And I think, all the working moms I talk to have the same exact feeling. That doesn't make me slow down. It just makes me try to put into place processes to help myself as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. And I think, like talking to your friends, I think that's really important. I know as a father, I've said this many times on the show, I do have a daughter. She's older now, in her early 20s. And, I wanted to be very present in her life. And I was, I was actually leaving a major job and going full time to music when she was only 4. And I just struggled with this too. And I know that for the women, for the mothers, I do believe it's even more intense and even more complicated. There's just so many more issues. And it's hard for us fathers, but for the mothers, there's I think, even more to deal with. And so, a lot of the women who have been on the show, we've talked about this. Shauna Gohill was a real good example of Maharani weddings. And yeah, surrounding yourself with, friends, family who can relate, go through this. I think that's just so important. It's almost like starting a support group almost on the side. So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And I think that women, sorry to cut you off, I think that women that are balancing family and running businesses really figure out ways to become the absolute most efficient as possible. So I've figured out when those moments are that I need to be really present for my kids, and I try to stick to them as much as possible. For me, I know walking them to school is a really big deal. They love it when I do it. I love it. It's a great time of day for me. And I try to carve that out of my schedule every single day. And that's kind of our time together. They know that I'm not great late at night before bed. I'm cranky every single day. So, that's not the greatest time. But if I can kind of understand how to be the best in certain moments, I think it helps. And I'm like that with my business too. Yeah,
no, I love what you're saying. And I'm not trying to drop a lot of names, but I think, this is really apropos for this conversation, is that it was somewhat recently I interviewed Allison Rinderknecht out of San Francisco. Let's see, Allison Hotchkiss Rinderknecht. It was November 19th. That's a good one to check out because she was talking about it in terms of the way you just did, really making that time and staying fully present. And she had some really interesting suggestions of how to balance. So we do have time, I think, for one more topic, Julie. So another one is, and this comes up with a lot of people. I think we all have to face this. It was interesting to hear Lynn talk about it, which is that who to work with in terms of your clients. She was saying it's not just about clients picking her, but it's also very much about her picking them. And, we can't have this feeling of desperation where we have to take every single person because, depending what your position is in this industry, many of us are dealing with the client for a very long time. And I think having an attitude of abundance, that, look, if this person doesn't feel right for you, don't work with them. Assume you're going to fill the space. Absolutely. And she does time and time again. And I was listening to that this morning as I was reviewing again the episode. And I was like, oh God, yes. Like, I need to remember that in certain moments. And what she said for them is true for me as well, that it's such an intimate relationship. And with what I do, I'm in the dressing room with these women getting changed all the time, and we're spending days and days together. And, I see their vulnerabilities and I learn about their relationships, and there's all of this in it. And if you're going to put that kind of effort into it, you can't do that with someone that isn't a good fit for you. And really sussing out whether or not that's the right client for you
is a big, big thing to do because it sets you up for success.
Yeah. No, great points. Well, that is all we have time for today. I want to thank everyone for listening to our conversation, Julie and I talking about Lynn Easton. Check out Lynn's site at eastonevents.com. That's eastonevents.com. And I really want to thank you, Julie, for being such a great co-host. I know I'm going to have you on the show again on the next level. I want to tell everybody to be sure to check out a couple things with her of The Stylish Bride. Her website is thestylishbride.com. Again, thestylishbride.com. And Julie took advantage of a way of getting more publicity out for herself by joining our network, the Wedding Biz Network. And so she's got a wonderful, wonderful show there. There's many, many episodes in the archive that you can check out at theweddingbiznetwork.com. So be sure to check it. So Julie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great. I love what you're doing.
Thanks. And be sure to join us next week because we're going to be releasing, and this will be the first one of the new year, 2019. Be sure to join us because we're going to release my interview of Amy Moeller, who is the editor-in-chief of the very successful regional publication, Washingtonian Weddings. I really wanted to find someone in that type of position, and Amy did not disappoint. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your cell phone app or on your laptop to theweddingbiz.com and share this if you can with friends and colleagues. We really appreciate it. And everyone have an absolute wonderful, wonderful New Year's Eve. Take care. We'll talk to you next week.